Marina Mabrey admits she overreacted shoving Caitlin Clark.
And shoving Caitlin Clark is what the headlines say. All I think of is we forgive, but we don't forget. Marina Mabrey was heard saying, damn if I do, damn if I don't. How could you say damn if you do, damn if you don't?
Marina Mabrey just admitted she shoved Caitlin Clark out of pure anger and jealousy. Her flip-flop excuses, from blaming fans to hiding behind teammate protection, crumble against footage of her dirty plays.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it.
Thanks to this empty-headed stunt, Clark is left battling multiple injuries that never should have happened.
You pushed the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, to the ground. Why would you do that? There's no damn if you do.
June 17th, 2025, third quarter, Fever vs. Sun, no active play going on, no ball in sight, just Marina Mabrey deciding, you know what, let me launch my full body into Caitlin Clark like we're in the WWE. And this wasn't your run-of-the-mill bump either, this was full commitment, the kind of hit that makes you wonder if she got confused and thought she'd signed a linebacker contract.
That Mabrey now, that is Marina, is in a bit of a panic.
The crowd saw it, the players saw it, and within seconds we had multiple technical fouls flying around. Oh, and because that wasn't chaotic enough, 1 quarter later, Sophie Cunningham decided to escalate the drama and straight up body slam JC Sheldon like it was a pay-per-view wrestling event.
Infamous moment came on June 17th, yeah. The moment came in the third quarter. Actually, you know what? In my opinion, the Sophie Cunningham thing is as infamous. This led to a brief scuffle between Clark and Sheldon, which prompted Connecticut veteran Marina Mabrey to come up and shove Caitlin to the ground.
And let's not pretend this was just one bad moment. This hit didn't just live in the game highlights. It became the new face of WNBA controversy. The Wall Street Journal drops an article calling out a hostile work environment in the league. And suddenly, Caitlin Clark's rumored civil rights lawsuit isn't some niche fan theory, it's the talk of sports media.
Situation with Caitlin Clark in which she shoved her to the ground and it made national news. Hence, part of the reason why I believe Caitlin Clark got hurt early on.
You've got Fox News covering it, Whitlock jumping in, even Outnumbered talking about it like it's a federal case, because at this point, it practically is. Overnight, Marina went from being a respected veteran to the walking, talking poster child for the WNBA's thug problem. And it's not like she didn't earn that label, she gift-wrapped it for herself on national television. But here's the thing, Marina's shove didn't happen in a vacuum. Oh no, she just added herself to an elite little club I like to call the Not a Basketball Play Hall of Fame. And these folks have been putting in work. You remember Kennedy Carter's 2024 blindside hit on Clark? Pure cheap shot energy.
That weren't during actual basketball plays. The Kennedy Carter bitch slam that started this all.
Then there's Diamond DeShields with her mid-court body check that looked more like an NFL safety blitz than basketball defense. And how could we forget Angel Reese's greatest hits? The clotheslines, the elbows, the oops, did I do that face afterward. Marina's move didn't just blend into that mess, it stood out. According to the WSJ analysis, hers was one of only 3 attacks they flagged as completely off the ball, meaning not even remotely part of the game.
Caitlin Clark running down the court, Diamond DeShields slamming into her like she's a safety in the National Football League. You're trying to tell me that was a basketball play?
And let's talk real-world consequences for a second, because if Marina had pulled that stunt on someone in Texas, this wouldn't be a sports debate, it'd be a mugshot. Analysts straight up said it. In some states, that's assault. You're not heading back to the bench, you're heading to county lockup. And now Clark's legal rights under Title VII are in the conversation, meaning this whole mess could drag the WNBA into a full-blown federal investigation. But does the league step up and say, all right, this is too far? Of course not.
Did anything because of the way the fans reacted. Maybe said and shove Clark, they gave me tech for initially, I don't care, honestly I really don't. Obviously I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm not trying to go after a certain player. I'm not trying to go after certain players, certain shit.
Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner, apparently doesn't want to touch it. Why? Because she's terrified of the player backlash, the headlines, the identity politics. It's easier to let players run wild than risk being called names online. So here we are, chaos unchecked.
If you guys don't remember, Caitlin's about to take a layup, and Mabrey just body checks her in the air. She just body checked her in the air, and the referees just ignored it.
Now, Marina's reaction after the fact is where the roast really cooks. On August 10th, 2025, she sits down with Sportskeeda's Mark Medina and delivers her grand explanation. And get this, she blames the fans. Yep, according to Marina, the only reason her foul got upgraded from a technical to a flagrant 2 was because the fans overreacted. Not because she threw herself into Clark like a heat-seeking missile, not because the footage was ugly from every angle, no, it's the fans' fault. That's like a kid getting caught stealing candy and blaming the security camera for recording them.
To show up the herd world, Mabrey was heard saying, "Damned if I do, damned if I don't," when addressing a commenter on an Instagram livestream who called her ever shoving Clark. Mabrey since opened up about this shove.
And she didn't stop there. On Instagram Live, a fan calls her out, and her response? Damned if I do, damned if I don't. Oh, give me a break. That's not some deep philosophical take, that's just the go-to excuse for people who don't want to own their bad decisions. If this was really damned if you do, damned if you don't, then you must be living in a universe where not slamming someone to the floor also gets you roasted. Spoiler, it doesn't.
Marina Mabrey get honest about Caitlin Clark's shove. 2 days after that shove heard about the women's basketball world, Marina Mabrey was heard saying, "Damn if I do, damned if I don't." How could you say damn if you do, damn if you don't?
Then comes the part where she tries to play innocent. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, and I've never done that before. Right. Except there's video evidence of her body checking Clark in the air during a previous game. No whistle, no foul, just a full speed shoulder like she's contesting a dunk in a pickup game with no rules. And let's not forget the spinning back fist aimed at Aaliyah Boston earlier in the very same match as the shove. She missed, but the intent was there. We've seen UFC fighters get suspended for less.
Trying to moonwalk back said incident. Now that somebody's actually talking about actual government involvement, of which...
And when those excuses start running thin, she goes digging into the archives. She brings up the 2024 playoffs, claiming Clark threw her into the benches during the quarterfinals. First off, that was over a year ago. Second, it was during live play, you know? The thing you're actually supposed to be doing on a basketball court. That's like holding a grudge because someone tagged you too hard in a game of backyard football last summer.
She had me and Caitlin have competed against each other in the playoffs. She threw me into the benches in the quarterfinals. We didn't go after her for it. She's competitive. When did she throw Mabrey into the benches? And if she did, in fairness, Mabrey got her back with...
But here's the kicker. Her big, I was protecting my teammate defense. Sounds noble, right? Except the footage tells a different story. She had her back turned to the Clark-Sheldon scuffle. She wasn't stepping in after seeing Clark get mugged, she didn't see it at all. It's like throwing a punch in a bar fight when you don't even know who started it. And then later calling yourself a hero.
She's competitive and I was about to get the ball, I get it, throw me out of bounds, we got back up and kept competing. Mabrey concluded with, so at the end of the day, it was a play on the ball when she did it and I probably overreacted a little bit. My teammates is getting hit and I'm not okay with that. And I was like...
Marina Mabrey's whole defense tour feels like a badly rehearsed stand-up routine where the punchlines never land. 1 minute it's, I don't care, the next it's, I've never done this before, then it's, but she pushed me last year, and finally, I was protecting my teammate I didn't even see get hit. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book of excuses, and none of them lead to accountability.
At first, you was kind of cool. You was doing the Unrivaled thing. You know, they had you in a bad spot in Connecticut. Your boy John the Liquidator was rocking with you, Marina. Then you come into the league and push.
The reality is, this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment basketball play. It was a reckless, off-the-ball cheap shot that embarrassed the league, handed Clark's legal team a golden piece of evidence, and turned Marina from a respected veteran into the WNBA's walking controversy magnet. And watching her twist herself into knots trying to downplay it has been almost as messy as the shove itself. Sophie Cunningham's slam on JC Sheldon wasn't some random burst of energy, it was the direct aftershock of Marina Mabrey's human missile act on Caitlin Clark. You could practically see the chain reaction happen in real time. Mabrey sets the tone with a cheap shot, Sheldon gets bold enough to go poking Clark in the eye while playing defense, and then she decides to follow her down the court like some kind of shadow from a horror movie.
No, That's when none other than my favorite right now on the team, Sophie Cunningham, put the beats and feet and elbows all over who? Lacey Sheldon. Now, that whole situation was diabolical, and it had a trajectory into the direction the season was going to go.
Sophie wasn't about to let that slide, and what we got next looked less like basketball and more like someone pressing start fight in a video game. Sophie grabbed Sheldon and planted her on the hardwood like she was auditioning for WWE. And it's not just about that one poke. Analysts have been quick to point out that Sheldon has a history, not the "oh, she's scrappy" type, but the "you might want to wear protective gear around her" type. We're talking about incidents like injuring Sig Coulson's knees and ankle-twisting plays that make you wonder if she's confused about which sport she's in. So when Sophie made her move, a lot of people saw it as retaliation building up over time, not just for what happened to Clark in that moment.
Incited several technical fouls and weeks of heated discussion about how Clark is treated by peers afterwards, but it prompted Fever enforcer Sophie Cunningham to essentially start a brawl by grabbing and throwing Sheldon to the ground.
Now here's where it gets really spicy. All of this, from Mabrey's shove to Sheldon's poke to Sophie's slam, is exactly the kind of sequence lawyers drool over. If Caitlin Clark's team is really piecing together a case, this isn't just one clip. It's part of a pattern. It's evidence of a hostile environment, a culture of "you can get away with it," and a league that stands around looking clueless. The whole thing feels less like professional basketball and more like street brawls and sneakers. And once you start thinking of it that way, it's hard to unsee it. And then we've got the big dark cloud hanging over all of this, the lawsuit talk. That Wall Street Journal article didn't just stir the pot, it dumped gasoline on it and threw in a match. Suddenly, you've got pundits speculating about federal civil rights involvement, the possibility of subpoenas, and players like Mabrey, Kennedy Carter, and Diamond DeShields being dragged into rooms where every word they say is under oath. Imagine trying to keep up that "damned if I do" line when you're sitting across from a federal investigator. Clark's injury record since she came into the league isn't helping the WNBA's case either. 2 more injuries after the June shove on top of everything else make it hard to argue she's just unlucky. This is the part where people start saying words like systemic targeting, and the league can't just wave it away.
The opinion piece that came out of the Wall Street Journal about Caitlin Clark and a hostile work environment in the WNBA.
But instead of taking control, they've let it fester because they're terrified of being called racist, anti-LGBTQ, or whatever other label could get thrown at them. And that's how you end up with a culture of no consequences, where bad behavior becomes the norm and the league just crosses its fingers hoping it won't blow up in their face. Then there's Marina Mabrey's so-called overreaction admission, which felt about as sincere as a politician's campaign promise. It reads like PR damage control, say just enough to look like you're addressing it, but not enough to admit fault. Fans and analysts picked up on it instantly. Half the time she sounds like she's apologizing, the other half like she's justifying it, and tucked in there is this vibe of, yeah, I'd probably do it again. That's not remorse, that's arrogance with a side of spin. And if you're as fed up with this nonsense as I am, hit that subscribe button so we can keep exposing the truth they don't want you to hear.